Right here now, we've got a great panel tonight. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Waltz, Michael Malice, author of Dear Reader, the unauthorized autobiography of Kim Jong Un, David Morey, former advisor to South Korea, and Marsh, former senior advisor to Senator John Kerry, who went on to become Secretary of State. Welcome to all of you. Good to have you here tonight. Michael, let me start with you. What did you make of the walkabout, the selfies, and the news that the dear leader has already decided, according to his folks, that he's going to leave this afternoon, Singapore time?
I'll go to Michael Malice.
Well, first
That's
of all,
what I was heading for. Go ahead, Michael.
Sorry, Michael. I just wanted to clarify one of the things you said in your intro. When years ago, President Trump tweeted that when he speaks to the losers and haters, he does so with great affection. It's not their fault. They were born bleeped up. So it's very interesting to see that he's still attacking his naysayers, and with good reason. I mean, last summer, Chuck Schumer and all the Democrats were hitting him hard, and to have some cautious optimism that this can go in a positive direction is not too much to ask. We could see diplomatic relations. We could see the end of the Korean War. We could see further talks and a pause on their nuclear program. And notice that Mike Pompeo has carefully shifted the argument from denuclearizing North Korea to denuclearizing the whole peninsula. So already that's a little bit of an agreement that's been made between the two sides behind the scenes.
All right, but Michael Malice, let me stay with you. What do you make of Kim Jong Un when you watch him walking around, taking the selfies, and you hear that he's already decided that he's leaving today?
This could be a feint. I mean, remember, this meeting was supposed to be off a couple of weeks ago. They like playing hardball. They like, it's kind of this Hollywood thing, who's going to go to whose table. The fact that we got him to leave North Korea, the fact that we're getting him to sit down with President Trump is a big concession on his part. And the fact also that the North Korean media is already reporting on this meeting, whereas usually they report on it after the meeting has occurred and has been successful, is a tell that they already have made some agreement and that there's going to be a success by some measure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he also gets nervous, I think, leaving home. The people in North Korea just found out this morning, in fact, that the leader of their country was leaving and going to Singapore. The rest of the world has been very aware of this, but media is very different there, as we know. Michael Waltz, interesting that he let go 3 of his top military officials, Kim Jong Un, in recent days, which begs the question, perhaps they were against some of the moves that he is planning to undertake here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we have to keep in mind that Kim Jong Un has a domestic audience as well, and that's namely the North Korean military. And this nuclear program truly is kind of the holy grail of the North Korean militaries. And, to that end, the reason that we are sitting here is President Donald J. Trump made both the North Koreans and the Chinese realize that the credible use of military force is on the table, would be used, and I think has changed their calculus. Heretofore, they have believed that they had to have a fully functional ICBM in order to ensure the regime's survival. And now Donald Trump has made them realize that, no, if you get that ICBM, it will mean your destruction. And I hope that's the message in their one-on-one that is delivered mano a mano, perfectly clear. That if you use this time to drag things out with the inspection regime and then back out later and declare a nuclear program, that it will mean the destruction of your regime.
David Morey, one of the things that seems to have sunk in with Kim Jong Un is that the status quo is not any longer for him. Either he needs to change his model and open up his economy and agree to some security assurances from the United States and dismantle his nuclear program, or he's going to face a military threat from the United States. So those are the choices that he has on the table. Comment on that, and also on this denuclearization of the entire peninsula that Secretary of State Pompeo is talking about.
I think that's right, Martha. I think this rises above politics, so I think we should stop talking about Democrats and Republicans. Democrats are rooting for President Trump on this one. He deserves credit for being a disruptive diplomat, as does Kim Jong Un. We don't know. I mean, we're giving him something by having the meeting. I disagree with some of the previous discussion. This is a real win for Kim Jong Un just sitting down with him, number one. Number two, we don't know if it's the pain of the sanctions or if he's just gotten to this point with nuclear weaponry where he now is satiated and he wants to move and turn the company to economic prosperity. So that's going to be a key issue. The question, Martha, you raised is, what does denuclearization mean? And that's going to come down to the process that follows these meetings, which I think will go well. That's going to come down to the pace at which we negotiate this. There's maybe 300 steps. This is much more complicated than the Iranian deal. And finally, what price is involved in terms of economic incentives here?
Yeah, the president has said it's a one-shot deal, so he's definitely putting the pressure on Kim Jong Un to use this moment productively and for both sides to walk out feeling like they have gotten something out of this meeting. Let me bring in Marsh talking about politics. This is a little montage from some of the coverage today before these meetings even began. Watch this.
The rest of the world is looking at this and thinking, like, do these people know what they're doing?
And for the president to place all his eggs in the dictator basket seems ludicrous at best.
We're making nonsensical comments like we're going to know in the first minute whether or not North Korea will denuclearize.
The president recognizes a bit of himself in Kim. There's a lot of similarities.
He's not going to come home and say that he failed. He's going to call this a win, no matter what.
A lot of armchair psychology going on there. They seem to be deep into the mind of President Trump and know exactly what he's thinking and what he's going to do here, Marianne.
Well, it was widely reported that there was a psychological brief done on Kim for Trump to prepare for this meeting.
That makes sense. Does that not make sense?
Well, of course it does for preparation. But the fact is, no matter what happens tonight, and we will see what happens in the next few hours, this is a win for Kim. He's getting much desired attention. The air of legitimacy conferred upon him by this meeting, the handshake that we will inevitably see hours from now, yet he has done nothing, maybe little if nothing, to earn it. He hasn't agreed to anything yet.
Marianne, last summer, as Ed Henry pointed out in his report, we were looking at a situation where there were missile tests going off pretty much every 6 weeks, and people were concerned that one of them might mistakenly land in the middle of Japan if it were misfired. So I think and we've also got hostages back. I mean, to say that there's nothing that is growth along this spectrum, just based on the facts, seems untrue.
Well, there are a few points here, Martha. I mean, the fact is, when you look at this, Trump has gone from demanding denuclearization of North Korea to a process that they will negotiate of the Korean Peninsula, which others here have agreed upon and been reported. He's not going to Otto Warmbier, yes, returned home, I believe, 1 year ago today, yet nothing, and at the hands of North Koreans who had him, and he returned home blind, deaf, and howling, only to die a week later.
We understand that. But President Obama, on the way out the door, said to President Trump, North Korea is your biggest problem, by the way. See you later.
Well, and that was the first and only thing he said to him. And I do think the presence of two people play large here tonight, Barack Obama and Xi Jinping. Barack Obama, Trump is obsessed with undoing Barack Obama's legacy and everything he's done. And I think he would like to show to him, see, look, I got this meeting. We're going to get something done. Here's one more thing I've beat you at. Xi Jinping is the power broker in this area. Nothing happens without him, especially in North Korea. And I think Xi Jinping has a lot to say about what happens in this negotiation, more than just flying him to get to this meeting and to make sure that he's propped up his regime, his parents, his father before him, and provide him what food and energy they do have.
All right, guys, thank you very much. It's going to be fascinating. We are less than 2 hours away now, an hour and 46 minutes.